I feel like most art was made by an anxious person talking to a very avoidant person.
How are you?
I'm really well. Thanks for having me. And thanks for being nice about the album. We were saying before we started recording, but I feel like you have great taste. And I was nervous to do this because, yeah, you're a music guy.
I'm a music guy.
Yeah.
I was. Maybe I'll say what I said to you before, because I don't know what my expectations were coming in.
Totally.
I mean, I like all music. I'm not too nerdy. I'm not too snobby.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, comedian wrote a serious. But it's a beautiful, beautiful record, beautiful songwriting, and congratulations on it.
Thanks so much. It's when I made it, I wasn't really intending on releasing it, and I think that was helpful because I wasn't like self-editing too much. It really was like a passion project that I did with friends, and I'd been recording demos for years just privately and getting emo in my bedroom. So then when it all came together, I thought, I'm proud of it. So I'm happy people are responding to it.
What do you mean you didn't plan on making a record? Like, why were you writing songs?
Oh, just for fun. Like, I really love it. And I thought maybe I'll put one out on Instagram or something and test the water and see if people are like repulsed by the whole thing. And then it was just so much fun. It's like learning a new language though, the recording process. But then, yeah, once it came together, yeah, it felt natural.
What was the moment where you decided, okay, I think I am going to make this record?
Pretty recently. No, I think just when we had the bulk of the songs recorded and it felt like there was a cohesive kind of tone to it. And it felt like my great fear is that it'll feel like I'm trying to be a rock star or that it's inauthentic. But it felt like it sounded like me and like an extension of my other work. And so that felt like maybe people would be more receptive to it.
There's a point in the middle I'm missing here, which is like you were writing songs at home and writing songs in your bedroom and writing songs for you and writing songs for friends.
Yes.
And then something happens and you go, I want to get enough of them to put out something here.
Yeah, well, I think I had just moved to LA. I'd been in London for 12 years. And then I found myself in LA with a lot of time and in my Airbnb and with those beautiful sunsets and feeling very inspired. And I just spent a lot of nights writing and recording these demos. And then I found I actually knew more musicians in LA than I did comedians.
Right, because you do that Largo gig.
Yes.
And so the gig, for people who don't know, there's this gig at this LA club called Largo, which is seemingly half great comedians and half folk musicians and singer-songwriters and a lot of like big Americana or just in general musicians playing the same gigs, right?
It's a pretty magical venue, and it really, I don't think I can overstate how crucial that was in me feeling confident enough to, because I do a monthly show there and I would always have musical guests and people drop into that venue, like Amy Mann will drop in or Jeff Tweedy. It's really amazing.
Wow.
And the owner is passionate about music, and Elliott Smith's piano is there, and it's got this rich history. And so I would play like a cover, and that was the first time I played music in front of people, and I loved like the energetic shift with the audience. Like you could suddenly hear a pin drop, and it was terrifying because I'm so used to breaking that tension with a punchline, you know? But I got kind of addicted to it.
I want to talk more about that, but I think we should listen to some of the record. Take a listen to this.
I told you time alone was only gonna make things clearer, but the clock's strong. It's been too long.
That's Good Dream off of Mae Martin's new album, I'm a TV. Tell me about that song. When did you write that?
That was actually the last song that we recorded and then became kind of the single. So that's cool. But that chorus actually is something that I've been playing since I was a teenager on the guitar. Like they have things that when you pick up a guitar, you just end up strumming them. The same way like you have little doodles that you do since you were a teenager. So that chorus, I just have always played. And so I'm happy to have fleshed it out into something.
What's the song about?
I think it's about, well, what I love about music is that people can project their own shit onto it. So I don't want to, be too prescriptive.
But when you were writing it,
to me, it's about walking away from a relationship with no hard feelings and, sort of shedding those layers. Yeah, I'm pretty interested in how all of our relationships and experiences with other people mark us and change who we are, and yeah, who would we be if we'd never met another person? I'm interested in that, stripping all that stuff away.
How is the can you A/B the muscle of writing comedy versus writing songs? Are they linked in any way?
I feel like I'm always exploring similar themes and emotions, and it's like the same kind of itch that I get to say something. But then music for me is a lot more solitary and with no distractions or interruptions, often late at night, and just getting deep. And a lot of my stand-up is written on stage, like improvising, and I need the adrenaline of the crowd to find that punchline. So yeah, so maybe it's that.
Does it feel like a different muscle?
Yeah, it does a bit. Yeah. Definitely performing it really feels like a different muscle, much more so. Like, I think all creativity kind of comes from the same muscle, but the performance feels so different, which I wasn't expecting.
But yeah, because I think you alluded to this earlier, but I got to talk. So this is I'll do a humble brag.
Yeah,
for
great.
You.
Yeah.
Okay. So one time I got to talk to Steve Martin.
Oh my God.
And I play banjo.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
okay,
that's my first instrument. And
Oh,
you're the
wow.
first person to ever go, oh wow, to that.
That's amazing.
And not
yeah.
walk out. Which
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. You didn't spray me with water
Yeah.
and you didn't push me over.
No, it's a really hard instrument.
Yeah. I mean, I was okay.
Yeah.
And I asked him a little bit about how he has spent, of course, his entire career on stage doing like incredible comedy and groundbreaking comedy, you know. And I said, when you play a song that's 3.5 minutes on your banjo show, isn't that the longest you've ever been on stage without someone laughing?
Yeah.
And he went, yeah, it's weird. Can you talk to that in your case?
Absolutely. Yes. I'm having to now. I mean, I just did my first ever music show was in LA for the release of this album. My second one is in Toronto, and it's really tempting to want to undercut yourself or with comedy you can bail halfway through a joke if it's not working, and yeah, there's a new level of commitment and trusting that the audience wants to be taken. They like that emotional tension and they don't need to be broken out of it, because my muscle memory is like, if no one's laughing, I'm bombing. So if I'm playing a song and people are just silent and paying attention, I'm like, oh God, but it's been really gratifying. And I thought that all those years of stand-up would translate to feeling super chill and confident, because I don't get that, stage fright anymore, but it really has not been the case. I was like quivering, shaking.
Why do you think that is?
I think singing's really vulnerable. It feels vulnerable, but I must get a real kick out of it in some masochistic way. I think I love it. Yeah, but it definitely feels scary.
I love that you said that you said there's a tendency that I feel to undercut my own songs.
Right.
To undercut my own message. What did you mean by that?
Well, I guess I'm used to. I mean, with stand-up, you have to be so careful not to be too earnest or you could be described as being preachy with your message. And there's a real art to that lightness of touch and being able to make your point and have people feel something, but then rescue them from that moment. And I think with music, people are up for that vulnerability and they're open to it. And yeah, I like that there are some things and ideas and thoughts that we have that aren't easily packaged into a setup and a punchline structure, that, all the nuance and gray area of life now and uncertainty. And there's so many things that I don't really know how I feel. So it's great to be able to explore them with that, amazing veil of metaphor and poetry and stuff. It's great. Yeah.
Are there lyrics that when you're performing live, you kind of go, oh God, this one's coming up. This is a real one?
Yeah, for sure. Some songs, well, I love you so much is more directly, that's more directly confessional. Yeah. But it's like anything, like, you're usually drawing from a composite of experiences and people. But yeah, it does feel very exposing.
I wasn't expecting I love you so much to be that line.
Yeah.
It's hard to show love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love you so much is about we've all had like friends who we think I love this friend. I'm so happy they're my friend. If they said they wanted to be with me, I would blow my life apart in 2 seconds to do that, you know?
Well, let's listen to another song on the record that I really loved.
I'm gonna change my name. All the mistakes I've made break my face. I'm a stowaway in a heartbeat's eye. In a heart.
That's Stowaway from my guest Mae Martin's new record, I'm a TV. What was on your mind writing that one?
There's a lot of songs about. I feel like most art was made by an anxious person talking to a very avoidant person. So I think that's about sort of feeling like you have to wear a mask in the early stages of a relationship so that you don't give away that you're a soft-hearted little worm.
What do you remember about writing it?
I remember having no idea what LA was like or how to get around it or where I was, and being in this Airbnb and watching Austin Powers, and that was on TV, and then staying up all night and writing that. Yeah,
and
unrelated to Austin Powers.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
like,
that-
I didn't hear shagadelic.
No, yeah, the chorus is groovy. Yeah.
Yeah, it mentions the BBC a lot.
Yeah.
BBC a lot. What music were you hearing around growing up?
Oh man, well, my dad's British, and so I grew up listening to a lot of David Bowie and the Beatles and Pink Floyd, and in my teens I was a big sort of stoner, like deeply into Pink Floyd and the Beatles. My mom was more into Led Zeppelin and Bob Dylan, and they were huge music fans and comedy fans. And then, I have a real millennial kind of nostalgia for the early 2000s and late 90s indie rock of Canada as well. And like
Our Lady Peace.
Our Lady Peace, Tragically Hip.
Yeah, I love the tragedy.
I love the hip.
I feel like right now we're sort of like revisiting just how.
Yeah.
Because I think we were raised being told that they were incredible and they were great.
Yeah.
But there's something about, I don't know how old you are. I'm 37.
Yeah, I'm 37.
Yeah. There's something about listening to them now that's hitting me.
Man.
Maybe it's because Gord's gone, but like hitting me in a really different way.
Yeah, Bob Cajun and these songs. Yeah. And Sam Roberts I've been listening to, and
You're listening to a lot of Canadian music.
Yes.
For someone who lives in LA right now.
I know. I think I'm homesick. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
But also a lot of, and Broken Social Scene and that kind of person, but also Third Eye Blind and Matchbox 20 and those kinds of. That was like, I'd go to summer camp and play my acoustic guitar and just try to channel these heroes of mine, and imagine that girls were impressed.
Well, did you ever meet the Matchbox 20 guy? He's
Yes.
he's a wild dude.
I met him in an airport lobby. And
Who? Rob Thomas?
Rob Thomas, yeah. And he came
No
up,
way.
he came up to me. He'd seen Feel Good, and I was so blown away. And he was so nice. Yeah, he was great.
There are people from those like childhood years that I meet, because I meet, as you do, very cool people through this job.
Yeah. But some people it's the age you are when you're exposed to them. Like Stephen Jenkins, the Third Eye Blind singer as well. I met him and I really embarrassed myself, and I kind of kept blabbering at him, and then he very kindly said, I'll DM you and I'll get you some tickets to a show. And I was like shaking. And then he followed me on Instagram and he went to DM me and he went, you've messaged me before.
Oh,
I was
no.
like, oh no. And I had messaged him. I had gone to see them live like recently.
Oh, no.
And I'd sent him a message saying, thank you for an earth-shatteringly good show. Like I was sent him the most gushy message, but he was very nice.
That's a unique form of embarrassment, which is, you already sent.
You've already been sending me multiple messages.
I love How It's Gonna Be. That's my.
Oh, yeah.
That's my Third Eye Blind.
It's so great. There might be some Third Eye Blind covers at these live shows.
Oh yeah. Well, there might not be. But
Yeah.
Which one? Which one do you do?
How's it gonna be?
Oh, yeah. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you first start thinking about writing songs? You're playing all these cover songs. You're playing Superman's Dead, presumably.
Yeah.
You're playing We Were Born in the Flame.
Yeah.
When do you start thinking? When do you start writing music?
In my teens, I've always written music. But then I guess when I was making Feel Good in London. My friend Charles Watson was the composer on it, and because we were friends, I spent a lot of time in the studio with him while he was scoring it, and it was the first time that I felt like I had opinions about music that he was receptive to, and I got really interested in kind of the emotionality of music and how it affects a scene and how you can completely change a scene with a song or elevate it. And so that was, and then I started learning GarageBand in my apartment, and so it was around then.
But what were the songs? Go back to the early.
Oh, I mean,
you were writing songs when you were how old?
Well, I had a band when I was 10 called Divided.
Hold on.
And it was...
Lock the door.
Yeah. And
Divided?
Divided.
That's the most Canadian alt-rock.
I know.
I
think it was because we were learning long division in school. And like we had a whole plan of an album cover that was like a division symbol. And the lyrics were so dark.
You were writing original lyrics when you were 10?
Yeah, me, Stephanie Sampagna, Susie Kasaba, Iris Chan, April Wong.
Okay.
Yeah, they were really, really dark lyrics, though. We hadn't experienced any loss or trauma in our own lives, but we were writing like 2 seconds too late. It was about a suicide by drowning. 2 seconds too late, left to the ocean. 2 seconds too late, left to my... no one can save me in my watery grave. Like, what was going on in
Mae.
I know.
Were you all right?
Yeah, we were great. I don't know. Yeah. And then in my teens, of course, writing, as we all do.
Sad, bad.
Bad, sad.
Bad, sad.
Bad, sad.
Yeah, I have a pencil case of bad breakup songs from when I was like 14 or 15.
A pencil case?
Yeah, I used to write them on. Do you remember like they weren't pencil cases, but they were like, because thank God I can mix up with these references.
Yeah.
They were like hard plastic.
Yes, I know exactly.
You open them up and you could put your pencils in there and your sharpener and your eraser and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I had one of those that I would write lyrics, and I didn't want my mom or anyone to see them.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then I would put them in that pencil case and close it.
That's amazing.
And that's what and I'd never been able to find it.
You have to locate it. It could be gold.
I'm terrified that someone's going to find it. Were there songs when you were 14, 15, 16 writing them at home that made you think, I guess what I'm trying to build to is like, were there songs that were good? And then why weren't you showing anyone any of these songs?
Yeah, I don't know. I just was so consumed by comedy. So it didn't really seem like I didn't really realize you could do more than one thing. And I was so passionate about comedy, and I dropped out of high school super young to do that and was just consumed by it. And I did some musical comedy where I would like change the lyrics to existing songs. And
you did parodies?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I read somewhere someone saying that's the lowest form of comedy.
No.
Song parodies, but I love Weird Al.
Come on.
Yeah.
Does Weird Al done the Largo show?
No, I wish. But he just sent a question for my podcast, and I gushed like crazy.
Do you remember any? Do you remember any of the parody songs you wrote?
Yeah, I wrote one that was to Four Non-Blondes, What's Going On? And it was about a true incident that happened where I saw Don Cheadle filming a movie outside of my building. And so it was a fantasy where we become intimate lovers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you give me any of it?
It's like... and then I jump in his arms and he spins me around and I rip his clothes off and we fall to the ground. It was really horny. And then I somehow got it to his agent.
No.
And he watched it and he emailed me and said funny stuff. And he sent a picture of him. And then I met him like 2 years ago and I saw him and I thought, I got to say something. And I went up and I said, you're not going to know who I am. And he was like, no, I remember that song got sent to me. And I said, I promise I'm not crazy.
When I asked you about those first two songs,
yeah, and
I got one more song I want to ask you about at the end, I said, what is the song about? And you said something like, hey, what I like about music is that people can take it any way they want.
Yeah.
I have been having conversations with artists on the show that I was hoping to get your perspective on. You have two ways of expressing yourself to an audience. So with comedy, I kind of believe you. Like
right.
When you get up and tell a story, I believe you and I believe the joke, and it's great. And it doesn't take a lot of interpretation on my part.
No,
I'm not
it's
really
very
thinking,
direct.
And I'm not thinking, what do they really mean by that?
Yeah.
But we live in this era now, especially where when you write songs, you are, especially, and you're like quite a famous person now, you are opening yourself up to scrutiny, to
right.
trying to learn more about you, trying to figure out what the song is really about. Who are they writing about? Who
right.
is that? Are you comfortable with that? Does that give you any anxiety?
Luckily, I feel like I've sort of been through that a bit with releasing like narrativized versions that are autobiographical, where people try to dissect it and you kind of say, it's a composite of lots of things. But yeah, no, I'm comfortable with that. Yeah, why not? I mean, I can't stop oversharing. yeah, I think you can just not confirm or deny.
Last time you were here, you talked to me a lot about how when you were making Feel Good, it was through the making of art that you learned more about yourself.
Totally.
Have you learned new things about yourself through the art of making music, the act of making music, writing songs?
I've learned. What have I learned?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I've learned. Well, I feel like I'm still learning a lot about the medium and the mechanics of it, but about myself, like when I first started talking about the fact that I was going to be releasing an album, I couldn't stop saying like, I'm putting out this mediocre album of like, I was so embarrassed by it. And then now the reception's been super nice and I feel like I'm proud of it. And that's been, I think I've learned that, to be more confident about it maybe, but I don't know. I think I wouldn't have.
By the way, there's nothing funnier to me than more confident about it, maybe.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh my God. And now I'm like embarrassed that I even said that. Like, yeah. It was funny because I said that in a podcast and then it got picked up as a headline, Mae Martin to release mediocre album of
that's very
songs.
Funny.
And my music label was like, do you mind not describing it that way? I
know, man. Listen. I'm also aware that being that this is the CBC and all that stuff, it's sort of my job to overthink everything. You know, like I'm very comfortable with that. I grew a beard for that reason.
Right.
Like, I wear this jacket because of that. I feel very comfortable with that.
Yeah.
But I do think about that I think to write songs and to show them to people that are about. I mean, this isn't Spanish Flea. This is beautiful. Quite confessional oftentimes.
Yeah.
I know Elliott Smith was a big influence on you, right?
Definitely. Yeah, I'm a big Elliott Smith fan. And I love how I think you hear Elliott Smith and you think about this little person with a acoustic guitar doing folky songs, but actually his arrangements are so rich and melodic and he makes such full indie rock songs as well. And
Beatlesy and poppy.
Yes,
But I think what I'm getting at is that like it's not surprising to me that you would be more scared about this than anything.
Yes, because it's earnest, and I'm scared of what other comedians think and that kind of thing. But what I'm saying, I hope, and if I say it out loud, I'll believe it, is that I'm less embarrassed now than I was in the lead up to releasing it. Now I'm super, and playing it live and seeing the reaction has been amazing, and it's been great. And I think when I first moved to LA, I had just had top surgery, and that I think I wouldn't have been able to make this album if I hadn't done that. And the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, that really, I felt like I was more comfortable being seen at all, and being, it gave me a new confidence, and I felt more like embodied and like I can move around on stage, and I just feel like it came out of that.
Yeah, I mean, no wonder.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Like if you feel like I'm able to be my full self, or I feel safe with being who I truly am.
Yeah.
And then if up until then you haven't felt good about putting out songs.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a genius to find that. That's not a coincidence that you would find that it would be, you feel comfortable showing off a little bit more yourself,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And not feeling like I have to sort of hide.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's a nice like concrete example of like just that it's so simple that transformation. And I was 35 when I had top surgery and started on testosterone. I'm just such a happier person, and I feel so creative and confident, and it's just such a, we overthink these things so much, and it's like it does boil down to just personal happiness for people. I'm always at war with like not talking about identity and gender and things, because
you do whatever you want, man.
Like as soon as you talk about it, it's like, oh, they never shut up about it. But then, when it's so under threat and the times are so crazy, it does feel important, at least to acknowledge, I guess.
What would your 13-year-old self writing these bad songs, not putting them in pencil cases like that, but what would they say if they could hear this record now?
Oh, that's really a nice thought. I think I'd be really pumped. Yeah, I'd be. I'd find, Jason Kaus from summer camp. I went to summer camp with him, and he produced the record. So we were 13 together at the same time. So I'd play it for him and be like, hey, we did this 20 years later or whatever, however long.
And we're going to go out on my favorite track on the record, which is Garbage Strike.
That's my favorite track on the
No
record.
way.
Yeah.
Is this song about the garbage strike? That's all I could
Yes.
find about it. I was looking it up and it said, and then I'm not from here. I'm from Newfoundland, right?
Oh, okay.
And Lise, who's from Toronto, you told me that about the 2003 garbage strike?
Yes. That summer was very visceral. It was there was the blackout, the whole Eastern Seaboard blackout, and record-breaking heat, and then the garbage strike, and the streets were just covered in piles of trash, and Christie Pitts Park was full of bags of trash, and I was 16, and I'd just been kicked out or left home. I was on my own and kind of bouncing around sofas, and it all just felt very dreamlike and also very real, and I think back to that summer, and I'm like, did that even happen? Or, and I was so lost at the time, but then in a way, when you think about your teens, aren't you also like, maybe I also knew who I was more than ever,
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so.
When did you write the song?
About a year ago, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's not, yeah.
No, it's a new one.
And tell me, like, as much as you want to here, like,
Yeah.
how, like, I mean, I want you to tell me what it's about, but like the parallel, why it's called Garbage Strike, why that time was on your mind, why that teenage time was on your mind. I don't know.
I'm driven by nostalgia and like insufferable navel gazing, and yeah, I think that was a pretty important summer for me. That and I was kind of a mess, and I've been writing about it, and I just made a TV show called Wayward that comes out this year. That's all about teens. It's set in 2003 actually, and it's a lot about like a teen rehab facility. And so, yeah, I was sort of in that headspace and remembering that, I mean, this is before I didn't have a cell phone. Like I was unreachable, there was, all the lights were off in the whole city. It was just crazy. There was a sense of freedom, even though it was also very scary and overwhelming. And my poor parents were very stressed. But yeah, it was just a very real summer.
I'm excited that people are going to get to hear the song. Man, congratulations on the record.
Thank you so much, man.
It's really good.
Thanks.
It's really good.
Oh, that really, truly means a lot.
Hey, thanks for coming and talking to me.
Thanks
nice
for
to see you
having me.
again.